This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hey there, and happy Thursday. Welcome to She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm really looking forward to listening to today's interview again. I loved recording. My guest today is Linda Ruel Flynn. She is the owner of Flora-ly Studios, where she preserves wedding flowers as custom collages by preserving through pressing. And I loved learning all about this art. I had no idea that people did this. I knew about like pressing flowers and books and stuff like that. And actually we kind of go into that because I have some really neat, family heirlooms that have stuff like that in them. And we kind of talk about that in the interview. But I really had no idea that this was an option for brides. And I loved learning about it. And I specifically loved learning about it from Linda because it is a skill and it is a passion that was passed down to her from her own mother. And we talk about that in the interview. And it was a really special to learn about their bond and how Linda took over the business for her mom, and we know how she started this as kind of a second career. Again, we go into all of this in the interview. And what I love about this is that Linda hasn't been at it for very long as far as, online business, but she really took to online business, the online piece of her business quickly. She knew she needed to do it. She joined the Wedding Business Bosses Facebook group, as well as the Wedding Business Academy that we've talked about on the podcast before last year. And she just hit the ground running, and I loved it. And I love her outlook on her business. So you're going to enjoy this interview today. I know you will. I know you're going to love Linda just as much as I did and do. And before we chat with Linda, I just want to remind you that She Creates Business, a book for wedding pros, is open for pre-order. If you pre-order, you are going to get some surprise goodies in the mail along with your book, and books begin shipping on November 1st. So they make great gifts for any of your fellow wedding pros, any friends you have who've been considering starting a wedding business and just need some encouragement, anyone who is going to, if you're going to be at WIPA organizations or ILIA organizations, or you're speaking and you want to be able to give something out, it's great for all of those things. It is, in fact, a physical book. I just want to mention that. Someone asked me the other day if it was an ebook. It will be, but this one is a physical book. And like I say, it's available for pre-order. It is $18, and you can do that over at shecreatesbusinesspodcast.com/book, or just tap the podcast player that you're listening to, click on the show notes, and the link is right there for you to just click on. Thank you so much. I would love for you to pre-order it and get it in your hands along with all of those special goodies. So without further ado, let's go to the show with Linda. Linda, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kinsey. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. You guys, Linda has been such an awesome and patient person with me. We're finally doing this. We've been trying to, I think, get this interview on the book since like April. And as we record this, it's June 27th. So Linda, you are like a saint and so patient. Thank you so much. You guys, I gave you Linda's professional bio there at the top of the show, so you know what she's about. But Linda, I would love for you, in your own words, to kind of just briefly tell us who you are and what you're doing in the wedding industry right now.
Sure. Thank you, Kinsey. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. What I am and what I do in the wedding industry, I preserve wedding flowers, and I create custom, one-of-a-kind botanical collages with those preserved flowers. And I preserve them by pressing them, rather than freeze-drying, which some people do, which that's a lovely thing to do too. But when I first started, I thought about it. Well, it was also my mother's business. It was my mother's business for 30 years. And she passed it on to me when she passed away. So I've spent the last 5 years just really figuring out how I can make it my own and really create something that I feel like isn't happening with flowers or the way flowers are preserved. So I take a very contemporary, abstract approach to the collages that I create. So that's what I do. Yeah.
That is, I didn't know it was passed down from your mom. That's really special.
It is really special. It just, I'm smiling just thinking about it. It was something that I hadn't planned on doing.
Yeah.
She had always wanted me to do it, and I'm a painter and a fiber artist myself and taught art for a long time. So I was doing my own thing, and I just didn't really think about pressing flowers and making pictures out of them. And when she got sick, and it all happened pretty quickly, orders were coming in. She had clients, and it was a case of me telling her clients, this is the situation, and I know how to do this. I'm happy to do this for you. And if you like it, I'm so happy you like it. If you don't like it, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry you don't like it.
I'm sorry you don't like it, and you don't have to pay for it. But, and then, so I'm doing them, and oh my, people liked them.
Yes.
And crazier still, I really liked it. And yeah, so it was also standing in her studio, which was 30 years of flowers grown organically in her gardens that she pressed. 30 years of clients, 30 years of, I mean, it was so much that I just couldn't even imagine like pulling a dumpster up to the studio and watching it all go away. So it was a emotional, it was one of those happy, sad, happy, bittersweet decisions to make. But I'm glad I made it. So here I am.
Oh, that is so neat. Well, so what were you doing? I think you mentioned that you've been doing this for about 5 years now. And before you decided to take over the floral business, what were you doing prior to that? Were you doing art and fiber work?
I was,
Okay.
but I was also, I managed a fine craft gallery in Amherst, Massachusetts, and that's what really put me in the fiber world, and
Okay.
I just reconnected with doing fiber work that way. I taught art at an elementary school near where I live, and I did that for about 6 or 7 years. So
Okay.
I've always worked in arts and nonprofits and education. And
So I am really curious. Your mom managed this business for 30 years, and obviously, weddings 30 years ago, even 10 years ago, were so different. And you mentioned that, for the last 5 years, you've been trying to, work on making this business your own since it was so much of your mom. So kind of let's talk about that. I'll dig into the logistics later, but what are some of these initial things that you've been doing to kind of really, make the business your own and also, fit into the industry as it is now, which is just a beast of an industry. Oh my goodness.
I had no idea.
Yeah, me neither. Does anyone? I don't know.
I got to tell you, there are still days I kind of look at it and go, it's like Mount Everest.
Yes.
And I'm still in America looking at Mount Everest. It's like sometimes it just feels so far away. But what did I do to make it my own? I got a website and I got an email address. My mother, God love her. So I did those kinds of things, and I didn't even even when I was working at the craft gallery, online, like email newsletters and those kinds of things were just starting out, and we were just getting a website. That was like 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've done is really I started out approaching this as I'm an island, and maybe people will find me, and won't that be nice? And then I just discovered the online world, and it was Facebook and really Instagram that really connected me with people. And it was one particular person on Instagram, Michelle Castillo of Michelle Isabel and Company, who reached out to me very early on and said, I love your work, and would you like to be part of a photo shoot? And that connection has been this snowball of, she then introduced me to Kristen and Ginny and Wedding Business Academy, and then I got connected with Maria Bear and Irresistible Selling, and it's just been this path of connecting with these people that has really helped me figure out what it was I was doing, because we all talk about that now, but I didn't know it then. Was, what was your why? And I started this feeling very, well, who doesn't want to have their flowers preserved? Who isn't going to want this? And then you come to this point of realizing that everybody isn't your customer. And that was, I say it now out loud, and it maybe people think I'm silly, but it really was like a dawn breaks on Marblehead, that was the case. So, did that answer your question?
Oh my gosh, yes. No, that was great. And no one thinks you're silly here. I'm like, everyone listening is probably nodding their head like, yes, when that happened when I started my business, I literally had no idea what I was doing. And sometimes I still feel that way. I think we all do. Like, if you don't feel that way in your business, I honestly don't feel like you're stretching yourself. If you just feel like I know everything and you know what I mean? Like, you're not stretching yourself. You're not trying anything new. So you're not silly at all. I just want to say that.
And not only... So it's a combination of let's like stretch and make the mind malleable and open to lots of business ideas and strategies and information and those kinds of things. But then taking adding to that this creative process.
Yeah.
And though my mother's work was lovely, it was very Victorian. This was huge in the Victorian area of having pressed flowers and making these little lacy frou-frou-y things, which is fine.
Totally.
And that's some people's taste. And if that's your taste, you're probably not going to want to work with me. And I can send you to somebody else that does work like that. But really trying to come to as an artist, and I really do. I will think of myself as that first, because that's just, when you go to art school and you paint and you do those things, you think of yourself as an artist first.
Yeah.
Now this is just a different medium that I'm working in. So, trying to create the vernacular and the language and the visual language of the art pieces along with all that business stuff has just been like, oh my gosh.
It's a lot. I was just asking, this is perfect, because I was just asking myself, I was wondering, because you started, as an artist and a teacher and as an educator, how have you kind of reconciled that with the business side? Because I think a lot of, this is really generalizing, but in general, whenever I talk to artists who have that leg of their business, it's always the art first. And actually, you know what, I'll kind of rephrase that and say, in the wedding community in general, I always hear, mostly on the podcast, like, I, planned my friend's wedding and I loved it so much because it was awesome and creative and that's who I am. And then everyone always thinks of the business side second. Would you say that was you as well? And if it was, how have you kind of like overcome that, or how are you overcoming it now to, focus on the business aspect of your business?
I hadn't thought of that before you asked that, but I really feel like I don't want to say I took the art piece of it for granted, but I have more faith and had more faith in my creative abilities than in my business abilities. So I feel like I put a lot of energy in the front end of business stuff.
Okay, I love this. Tell me more.
Well, it was like, I need QuickBooks. I need a website, and I didn't have one piece of art. I didn't have one photograph. I didn't have any of those things when I came up with a name and I figured out a domain, and I did all that sort of back end stuff. And then I had these couple pieces that I had made with my mom, and I took pictures of that, and I sent out a letter to like her clients for like the last couple years saying, this is what's happening. So I slowly kind of made work from that, but I never, I sat down to make it and I never doubted my ability to make it. I doubted my ability to make a business thing happen.
And that's what you focused on. I love that approach. I think that's so interesting. You're like, oh no, I can do the art, which is true, right? Like, you are an artist. You can totally do it. It's the business aspect of it that is new to us.
Absolutely.
Oh, interesting. So you mentioned, and listeners, you will be familiar if you didn't hear Linda. She, of course, has been involved in the Wedding Business Bosses. You know that I'm an ambassador in that group. Kristen and Jenny have been on the show separately and together, as has Maria Bayer. So kind of tell me, once you met those folks, why did you decide to join the Wedding Business Academy, and like what did that look like for you, and what were your goals there, and did you achieve them?
I did. It was, Michelle and I were having a conversation, and she just mentioned, she said, no, I'm thinking about this Wedding Business Academy, and I really like Kristen, and I've been following her for a long time. I didn't know who they were. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
You don't know you need to be on this path, and I really feel it was pretty kismet that happened. And what were my goals? My goals were really to really feel comfortable in the business, and to really, because I didn't know the wedding world, and I didn't know how to navigate things, and I didn't know what I didn't know. So, and then when I saw what they had planned, and I'm part of the founding class when they started last year. So, they had an idea, and that they were germinating, and when I saw what they laid out, I was like, oh, I need that. I need a social media thought. I need a branding thought. I need to know how planners think. I need to know, because planners, oh gosh, what's a wedding planner? There was just like so much I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And so on top of getting Kristen and Ginny and their knowledge, then I was with these people, the other my classmates, who we were at various stages of our businesses, all of us, but you find a few people that you click with, and we still keep in touch on a weekly basis, and we talk, and so now from that I have this core group of sort of a mini mastermind that we keep each other going, and yeah, it's so achieving goals. Yeah, I really feel like I did. I really, really moved my business so much further forward than if I hadn't done that class. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like, I feel like I know, when you just mentioned like having a mini mastermind, I love that piece. I feel like having other people that you can talk to, who understand you, who also can, you can communicate with. It's kind of like that accountability. I feel like that's so important in our businesses, because there's a lot of paths we could take. There's always something new we could try. And I feel like it's important to have those people to either like encourage you on to try something that you might be scared of, or say, okay, take a step back. You don't need to try everything today. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, there's one woman, my biz bestie, her name is Jill, and her company is Material Rebellion. And she and I met, she's, I don't want to say local, but because she lives in Western Massachusetts, and we're like a couple hours away, but at least we actually can sit in a room together and have coffee. Oh my God. And she's not in the wedding world. She does something completely different, and we've been able to, she has a super computer video background, and I bring sort of a graphic design, more artistic sense background, and the two of us have come together, and the way we've helped each other in our respective businesses. She shot my shipping video. She has a BFA in video from NYU.
Oh, I mean, wow.
How awesome is it to have a biz bestie that has a BFA in video?
Seriously.
Exactly. So I can't say enough about finding somebody that you connect with, whether if you in the same room or online, is just invaluable. It's invaluable. I count my blessings every day that these people are in my life.
Do you feel like, I know that Wedding Business Bosses is a 6-month group coaching program, so there's a lot of information there. And so after you went through that, how are you, I don't know, I guess what am I trying to say here? My question is like, how are you continuing to, educate yourself about the industry? Did you feel like that was enough? Or did that kind of help you say, okay, these are like the specific things I want to focus on? What are you doing now that group coaching program is over, to, kind of stay ahead, or, stay in the industry and educate yourself about what's going on in our industry?
Um, that's a great question. What am I doing? I'm online and I'm talking. I'm trying. That's one of the hardest pieces for me is the talking online thing, like being active in wedding business bosses and those kinds of places.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, how y'all doing? That's hard for me. But what I am doing, and from what I learned from them, and part of that group is creating this new marketing piece that I just finished. That I know I wouldn't be having this gorgeous piece of printed material in front of me if I hadn't gone through that. And learning that that's an important thing to do. That's a way that a physical manifestation of my brand to send out to wedding planners and floral designers that kind of that feel like they resonate with my work, I resonate with their work, people that we can work together. So that's just about ready to go out, and that wouldn't have happened without having done all that work. And keeping on top of things,
Mm-hmm.
I listen to you every week.
Oh gosh, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just love, and I love being part of some of the Facebook groups. There's a Real Flower Business with Allison. I think her name is Allison Ellis. Keep on top of that. I just love all of that stuff that happens. Yeah, I'm out there as much as I possibly can, soaking it all up and looking all the time.
Yes, I feel like we kind of absorb just by even if you're just what is it called, like lurking, which I do a lot because I just love to know what's going on. I feel like you could kind of just absorb what's happening, and by like listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, just looking at people's Instagrams, just watching the conversation happen in Facebook groups.
It's like the world has just become this wonderful, pretty magazine that I can flip through.
Oh my gosh, I love that analogy.
Just give me a stack of magazines. I'm just such a happy camper. Yeah, so it's I just love doing that. I get a lot out of that.
So tell me, this is actually like I've been curious about this the whole time. What like logistically, how does your business work? Can you only do flowers for people who are local, or can people send you their like? How does that work exactly? Pressing flowers.
Great. I can work with anybody in the United States.
Oh my gosh, cool.
Yeah, so it was about, as my work grew and changed, I realized that I wasn't always going to fit into the local market.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to work with people all over the country, and then connecting with Michelle and connecting with other people around, and Sammy in the South, and Elise in Michigan, and just connecting with other people, realized I wanted to get out there into the world. So yes, I can work with anybody. I created a shipping kit. I did research as to what needs to happen and how to pack flowers so they can come to me safely. And I created this video with my friend Jill, and that's on my website, and it's on YouTube, of how to pack flowers. I give you everything you need down to the packing tape to close the box.
Oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah, so there's instructions. If you're a show me learner, you can watch the video. If you're a reading learner, I give you instructions to read and do it. I'll talk you through the process. Jill created the term the bouquet bestie. So you find your bouquet bestie. The bride doesn't have to pack her flowers. Yeah, so somebody can do that. And then when they come to me, I take a video and send that to them. See, your flowers made it. Everything's okay. And I have to press them immediately. Like I cut the bottoms of the stems, rehydrate everybody for a little while, and just press them. And then they're in the presses for like 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say press flowers, what I'm really doing is pressing petals, because there's so many flowers. You can't just like take a peony and stick it between pieces of paper and put a lot of weight on it and think it's going to press. I press them one petal at a time. And then I put them back one petal at a time, to create the flower so that they
Wow.
yeah, but I know but I love it. Like, talk about patience. I never thought I had this, like, seriously. My kids are like, who are you, Mom?
Who is this woman pressing flowers one petal at a time?
Yeah, and then
that is so much work, but sounds so lovely.
It's really it's lovely, and it allows me a level of creativity, and then I can kind of play with them. And somebody who wants to, be a little bit of a risk taker that lets me do something super abstract. I love doing those kinds of things. So they're in the presses for 2 to 3 weeks. They come out. I send a picture. We talk. I send them a kind of like a little lookbook.
Mm-hmm.
This is done in the past. No two are ever the same. You can tell me, I super love this one. Really not digging that one. Mm-hmm. So kind of lean toward this, or it's horizontal, or it's vertical, or it's square, or it's rectangle, or and then I go to work, and there's no I never send somebody and like, is this okay? I just like, this is what you're getting, because you've looked at my work and you're trusting that I know the process, and you and I have talked enough that I can have a sense of what you like. And the best part of the process is if they come to pick it up, I have a local person, or if I ship it to them and I get oh my God, I love it. And they cry. It's that moment of, I had one woman come into the studio and she looked at it and she just started crying. And she's just like, my flowers, these are my flowers. I can't believe I get to keep them. And it's that moment. It's that, I have goosebumps just like reliving that, because it was so sweet and beautiful, and listening to how people connect, because not everybody will connect with their wedding flowers, and they're not important to everybody, but to some people they are super important. I just got done talking with a potential client who then became a client, and she said, and I've never heard this before, she said, pressed flowers are just like part of my family. I couldn't go to my grandmother's house and not pick up a book without pressed flowers falling out of them.
Yes. I was just oh my God, that's hilarious. It's now I have goosebumps. I was just thinking that we have some really old Bibles from my great-grandmother. Actually, I'm named after my great-grandfather. Their last name is Kinsey. And so my great-grandmother Kinsey, she has a lot of old Bibles, like from her mother, and so these are from Germany. And there are, we have like two specifically I'm thinking of. They have like pressed fabric in them, pressed flowers, and pressed 4-leaf clovers. And my mom and I just love them.
Isn't it? It's just like, you really think about, they're these little talismans of love and history, and there's so much now that is temporary. And I read about millennials don't care, millennials don't want anything that lasts, millennials don't want things like tying them down or something like that. And I think, but there's a group of people for whom that is super important, and it's just this little moment in time that you picked for yourself and you want to keep it.
That's right.
And it's just this sweet, I think it's the sweetest little thing.
That is so, oh my gosh, I'm so happy we had this conversation.
Oh, I'm so glad to. I really am. I'm like tearing up. I just love that you know exactly how I feel and what I'm talking about, and I'm happy that you have that experience too with your family. It's this little 4-leaf clover that ties you to generations.
Yes. And I would have never, and I think about it all the time, because my mom and I, we love, she's kept a lot of stuff, so have I. We do love all of our family history and, our antiques and all of our stuff like that we have that has just been passed down. But I wasn't even thinking of it until you said, like, pressed flowers are a part of my family. I'm like, oh my gosh, mine too.
Yeah. And when I do this work, when I press these flowers, everything I do, and I think that this is my art school background, everything I do to frame them is archival. They're always going to be behind museum glass, so they cut out 99% of the UV. So I really do want to, I'm not just handing you this thing that's going to last you 10 years. I'm handing you something with the intention that you will enjoy it for a very, 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 very long time, and so will your children and possibly your grandchildren. Yeah, that's just, I just want to give you this thing that is so lovely.
And it's so meaningful.
And it's so meaningful. Yeah.
This has been so wonderful, Linda. I cannot thank you enough for coming on. I wonder, what are your plans for your business, in the next 6 months to a year? What, if you can share, are there things you're excited about?
There are things I am excited about. I'm super excited to connect with more wedding planners and floral designers who really don't think about preserving flowers, because when I look online and I read things, it's just not something that people talk about. And I don't know if I want to go so bold as to say I'd like to be the ambassador for preserved wedding flowers.
I think you should be that bold. Yeah, you are.
So I'm super excited to have this marketing, this piece of printed material go out to people, and I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to, have that conversation with me. Yeah, so that's it. I'm super excited about being more out in the world and talking about it more. And really, and it's what I said before, even if it's not my work, even if my work doesn't speak to you, search out the person who preserves flowers whose work does speak to you, because there are other people doing this in the country who have a varied artistic artistic that's different from mine. So just think about it. It's just something to think about. So that's what I'm excited about.
You are wonderful. Linda, thank you so much for being on the show. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it, and I can't wait to connect more offline about this.
Thank you so much, Kinsey. I really appreciate it too, and it was an absolute pleasure, and I'm glad we could make it happen.
Me too. It's truly my honor. Thanks, Linda. Talk to you later.
Bye, Kinsey.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.